Hey everyone, this is Jeremy Mize. I'm here to do another movie review, but now today I have a good friend of mine who he suggested that we do a discussion video on the movie Moneyball. He actually was the one who told me about it and like suggested it, so I thought this might be an interesting another video to do. I have plans to do other discussion videos in the future, but from his suggestion, I thought this would be a good first discussion video. And you said you have the movie, the Blu-ray, right?
I got it right here just in case.
Yeah. This is my friend Nate Thomas. He and I are both I guess you could say, writers of our own kinds. We met through a site that we do stories from, and a friendship is built. And I thought, and I do value his opinions and his perspective on some of the stuff that I do. He's one of my main followers from my YouTube channel, and he has commented a lot and given me his thoughts a lot. So I really want to thank him for being here today.
Hey, man, the pleasure's all mine. Honestly, you're making me blush, man, with all those compliments. I should have come on here sooner.
Uh, well, I just needed to watch the movie again before we started this discussion. And like I said, today's video is going to be a discussion on the movie Moneyball that came out a few years ago, starring Brad Pitt, Jonah Hill, Chris Pratt, just to name a few people. This, I will say that I hadn't heard of this movie, but I don't usually watch many sports movies. Some of the main ones that I've watched are like Remember the Titans is probably the biggest one I've watched before, but
Good movie.
yeah. And this is a baseball movie. To be honest, I've never been much for baseball before in my life. It was mostly football and soccer for me. But I thought from his suggestion, I did watch it, it, and this is our first time we're going to be talking about this. It was part of it was it had some interesting parts. This is something a movie that that had some brought up some things that I thought were curious. I will say that it's not it's a movie that I think had some parts about it that make you really think about like how people like build a team, or how one goes through like a season of like how you get a team to work together. It's just I will say that this isn't one of my favorite sports movies, but I think I don't watch a whole lot of sports movies. But I did think some of the stuff in it was kind of interesting, and I didn't know where it was. I was a little confused watching it the first time around. Didn't know what some of the stuff was going on. But watching it today before we started recording this video, I got a little bit of a better understanding of it. But it's still something I'm confused by some things. But it was definitely a movie that did bring up something another interesting way of how sports teams are built and how they go through their seasons. This movie, I will say that I was kind of confused, like I said before, but this movie, I thought like the whole idea of like the building their team based off of what was the method? Like some kind of mathematics, I think.
I forget exactly how it's worded in the movie, but it was based on Bill James' strategy, which actually was a thing. I'm trusting the movie a lot here. I haven't fully done the research on it.
Mm.
Like they changed a little bit of it, obviously, to make the movie work better, but the theory actually is a thing. It's basically like I'm trying to think of how another YouTuber said it when he reviewed the movie years ago, which he said like it depends on do you want the best players for money or do you want the best players who actually will be the best in your system and what fits your team? Because I mean, you said yourself you don't know much about baseball. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Right. Yeah, I don't know much about baseball.
Like you have the Yankees, who have, to my knowledge, at least as of a few years ago, I think they still are. They have the biggest budget in baseball, and the movie actually starts out with that. As you remember, it says the budget of the two different teams.
Yeah, they have like millions they can spend while I think was it the A's, I think the Oakland A's,
Yeah,
they had nowhere near as much money. Like they said, it was like the rich teams were here, the poor teams were here, then the 50 feet of like I don't remember what it was down below, and they were directly at the bottom.
yeah, because honestly, I followed baseball for a while. I played some as a kid. I haven't been a big baseball fan, admittedly. I'm more of a hockey and football guy myself,
Mm.
but as they say in the movie, and as I like to think about, again, this is another point I actually saw that I didn't think about until somebody else mentioned it. You have all these poorer teams like the Athletics, who are honestly, I don't think they're the poorest team. I know they're definitely one of the poorest. I could be wrong. Feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
And then you
yeah.
have like the rich teams like the Yankees. Then you probably have, I want to say the Blue Jays, and now Tampa's probably up there among the rich teams. But the rich teams will watch your players as a bad team, and if they get good enough, like they did in the movie, they'll buy your players off you when the contract's up if you can't pay them.
Yeah, the method that they were doing, they bringing in players that, like you said, that were best fitted for their team. I kind of made me think of like the whole like underdog thing. Like you have they said they were undervalued players by Jonah Hill's character Peter Brand, but you see within them like something that can really maybe not maybe they struggle on their own, but like when they like are put together, they really like make for an effective team. As time goes on, as they like work on their team and how they work together, because you see in the movie that the other parts of like the management and scouts and like the I guess can't think the I guess you could say coach. I
Yeah,
this is probably
he was the lineup coach or the team manager. I know who you're talking about.
yeah Art Howe.
Yeah, that's his name.
Yeah, sorry. But yeah, you see that they like were obviously more than just second guessing, and they were just like completely like against like what Peter Brand and Billy Bean were doing. They thought like based off their experience and what they've done in the past was the best way to do it. While they think this new way of approaching of building a team was just basically not going to work because of like they were building and they were getting players that were not as effective in like certain areas of the game, and that they always saw like their problems and their flaws more so than like than what they were good or effective at.
Yeah, the movie pointed that out. Remember, Jonah Hill said like people are overlooked for a variety of biased reasons: appearances, playing style, on and off the field. And honestly, I want to touch about this because I didn't even know this. Peter Brand isn't even the real guy's name that Jonah Hill played. I forget the real guy's name, but they changed it. I think maybe because they didn't want the real guy's name in, or maybe he didn't allow it.
Mm.
Again, I didn't know that until later, but they changed his character's name. And speaking of Art Howe, he was actually played by the late great Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Mm. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't really know who that is.
Hunger Games.
I didn't really watch the Hunger Games movies that
All
really
right,
that much.
that's a movie you need to watch.
Well, I think like some of my folks have like tried to get me to watch it. They're just like it just didn't like I guess like interest me as much. But I'm not saying it's those they're like a bad series or anything. It's just something that I couldn't get into. But
I
yeah,
know
I
I'm
just
gonna get a I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate for saying this, especially on YouTube, but
mm,
I think honestly that was the peak of Jennifer Lawrence's career because I haven't seen her in anything really good since those movies. And if you want to talk about a series following the book, those books or the movies follow the books as closely as possible.
mm.
I got to give that credit.
Yeah, sometimes films and like their original like content that they draw from can vary. Sometimes the books are better. Sometimes the movies are better. It just varies. But yeah, the you see the Peter Brand like pushing and like telling Billy Bean that even though these guys maybe have their faults or they maybe are struggling with something, that they when they're like working together and like pushed in like certain areas that like they can really create something great, because in the film they won like 20 consecutive games when the team was really starting to come together, and they were playing how Peter and Billy were pushing, and you could see that how well they worked together, because there was also that scene late in the film. Well, it wasn't it wasn't a player that they had on their team. It was some other guy. I can't remember, but like it was like this player who was afraid to run to second base, and he like after he hit the ball, he ran and he starting to go to second base, and he scrambled back, and it turns out he uh, hit it out of the park. I think.
I know exactly what scene you're talking about. It was that end of the game where a Hart House says Hatterberg go and Chris Pratt scores the home run, excuse me.
No, I mean no. It was like this film like after they lost the ability to go to like the World Series. It's like
Oh, the Twins game?
yeah, it was like after that. It was like Brad Pitt's character Billy Bean was in like despair. He thought like nothing would have worked, and how it like seemingly all went for nothing. And then Peter Brand told him to come watch this film, and this player who like people like didn't really expect anything of. He hit the ball out of the park, and like the other uh the players from his team and the one they were playing against actually were trying to tell him what he had done. He was encouraged to run the bases. It was like near the end of the film. It was after Chris Pratt's character like hit a home run, and after they lost the game against the Twins.
I honestly didn't remember that. Thank you for bringing that back up because I remember the ending with the game against the Royals where they got the streak. And then I remember the ending with the Red Sox owner, which we got to bring up in this review, that conversation with the Red Sox owner and what
Yeah,
Billy's strategy led to going forward in baseball.
yeah, where they won the World Series like 2 years after they talked, and Billy Bean like refused the offer.
Yeah, he refused the offer. I think it said it, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it said he would have been the highest paid GM in the whole league,
Yeah, because they were going to pay him. I can't remember how many millions of dollars.
more than I'll ever see in my lifetime.
But no, it brings up this matter of like, even though it seemingly like going towards mathematics, and the other people like the ones who've been in the game of like trying to build teams and everything for years, saying it was going against like their experience and intuition. It seemingly though it like maybe it was pushing science and mathematics a whole lot, but I also think like you get this feeling of, even though that these guys maybe have their own problems and everything, but you get this feeling that because they're being underestimated, and because the matter of like them bringing this group of what Peter Brand's character said was like an island of misfit toys. You see that them over eventually through time and struggling, like it didn't start out easy for them at all, because they were losing a lot. But as time went on, as they were starting to get the team together, and including Billy Bean like starting to interact with the players, when he said originally he didn't like build like friendships or anything with them, you see him like start to connect with these players. And you see that through this building of the team both on and off the field, you see that them starting to like grow and develop and like really strengthen what they have, and you see them like doing what no one thought they could do.
I agree entirely. I mean, obviously they didn't win the championship, and again, you can make the argument like they had their peak during that time of the season. You want them to win, but when you go into a true story film and you know the team's never won a World Series, you're like, well, at least not at that point in history. I know they won in the 70s and 80s. Sorry, comment section, before you try to murder me for that comment. It's like they haven't won one since, I want to say the early 80s, I could be mistaken, but like now, especially with the team moving to Vegas as it's happening, and honestly, I think it's because they wanted a bigger market. I've heard conflicting reports on that.
Mm.
It's like, do you want to go for a community that's loyal but has little money, as the movie says, or go to a bigger city, get new fans, and get the more funds for bigger contracts? Which do you think kind of goes against the point of this movie, looking back, or
Well, I think like with like near the end, Billy being told Peter Brown he wasn't gonna ever make a decision based off the money again, because in it, when he was younger, he had the offer to start to play for the Mets, and he also had the ability to go to Stanford with a full ride, and he went with the money to play for the Mets, and it didn't work out. I mean, they said he was a five toolkit player, and they said that you see that very rarely, and it just didn't work out for him. And he just thought from that experience he didn't want to like base his decisions and his future and based off because of money alone. I mean, you
yeah,
see that he's trying to like, as you could say, maybe make it up to himself for like that mistake he made in the past, and like he's trying, I guess, to do better and like show that he maybe learned his lesson, or he's trying to show like maybe you shouldn't go with
emotional decision?
well the the emotional decision can go either way. It was more maybe I think what Peter Brand had mentioned before, like he was trying to tell Billy Bean not to go with emotional decisions when like their strategy just didn't seem really work, because Billy Bean was trying to as he think he put it, like cleaning house with certain players.
Yeah, it was.
But uh, it was like he was trying to maybe, like I said, make it up to himself or trying to do things a different way and try to maybe he wanted, like, to change the game, he didn't like I said, after the 20 consecutive wins before they, lost to the Twins. He wasn't doing it for a ring, he wasn't doing it for, like, glory or anything. Maybe he wanted that and he didn't realize it, but he was like, as he said, he was trying to change the game. He was trying to make things, like, maybe better, not just, like, for, like, what he thinks is his younger self, but for everybody who's, like, who wants to play the game. Because you see, like, Hatterberg, he, like, was he, like he was like really down and depressed over what had happened to him, and you see him later on, like you said earlier, like he hit that home run, and he was just trying to change the game for like for the players involved and trying to show things can be different.
I mean, honestly, I'm glad you mentioned that scene with Chris Pratt's character because I did a little research on this film. It turns out all but one actual baseball player on the team, that being Chris Pratt, was played by a professional baseball player at some point.
Hmm.
Even the head scout, Grady, who was the one Brad Pitt fired, I think, through the midway point, he to this day still thinks Billy Beane ruined baseball. He was a player who was against Beane's strategy.
Yeah, yeah, it like because I think Billy Bean's still trying to like get to that World Series win, and but yeah, he Billy Bean didn't want originally fire Grady, but when Grady cussed and insulted him, that's when things changed. And you hear it before like the team starts to like really pick up with their winning and their growth. You see him like saying, I think he said like about with like Billy, he bought a ticket to on the Titanic and how it
Yeah.
just you can hear like the anger and hurt in his voice, like because he thought, like you said, he thought he ruined the game.
I mean, honestly, you can make an argument that that's not unjustified because when you are trying something new like that, ultimately they didn't win the championship, but that's besides the point. I mean, I'm trying to think of the right way to word this. It's like you understand where the actual guys are coming from because they've done this and they had a winning team the season prior, but they lost so many players due to the Yankees. You know, the Red Sox were involved in that, where their two big names, Damon and Giambi, went to them respectively.
Ingringhauser. I don't think I'm going to pronounce the last name
I
right,
can't
but
pronounce his name. I forget which team he went to. I know Damon went to the Red Sox. I know for a fact, and Giambi went to the Giants, or excuse me, the Yankees. Sorry about that, guys.
yeah, I mean, I know his last name. I just don't think I'm gonna be able to pronounce it right. But yeah, they lost all three of those guys, and they were trying, and like Billy Bean was telling like scouts and everything that they were trying to replace them when they literally couldn't afford to replace them with the players that they wanted.
Yeah, as they said, we can't replace him, but we can replicate him.
Yeah, yeah, recreate them. And they eventually like were getting to that. It just took some time, some like learning from mistakes and trying to grow and like change some things because like everyone was doubting everyone of the managers and scouts were doubting Billy Bean and Peter Brand's strategy. You could see some of the players though that they were like thankful for it. Though some of the players were still kind of like doubting it. Like what was his name?
David Justice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. As they said it, Old Man Justice. Like he was like uncertain about it, but like through his conversations with like Billy, he was like told to like like step into the role of like being a leader and like setting an example for the other players, like trying to help them build upon one another and make something great when no one else thought it could be.
I think again you can make the argument with Justice. I know very little about the real life David Justice. Well, as they said, he was on the Indians when they were a powerhouse in the '90s. He was on the Yankees in the late '90s, early 2000s. Those were powerhouse teams. In fact, I want to touch up on this really briefly. The season right after that, where you know how in the intro of the movie where they lost to the Yankees in Game Five,
Yeah,
that was the year that the Yankees actually lost the World Series that year. They lost to the Diamondbacks out of nowhere. So you could make the argument Justice was validated because he's on a team that had won like three straight World Series and then lost one unexpectedly to a team nobody saw coming. And as I think Brad Pitt says it later in the movie, I'm not paying you. The Yankees are paying half your salary. They're paying half your salary to play against them.
yeah, because because, sorry, Old Man Justice thought he was being paid, like, what was it, 7 million to play for them, but like you said, the Yankees were paying him half that to, like, to play against them.
Yeah, they wanted him out of New York because he was getting old. Again, that's a perceived flaw. That's the thing the movie's trying to show. He still obviously played good. He wasn't what he once was, but he had enough juice left in the tank.
Yeah, because, like, at the beginning of the beginning of the movie, when they were after lots of their 3 big players, they, were talking about, like, guys who had, like, certain aspects that were, like, likable or, really help, like, the game, like, they said things like eye candy and, like,
Yeah, the guy had the ugly girlfriend, which made no confidence, which I still find is a funny joke to this day.
yeah, that was something I don't get why. I mean, maybe you don't understand why he was with her. Maybe it was something, other than what they were thinking, but that's besides the point. They were
Argument.
want Yeah, they were wanting, like, specific, people for specific things, sorry, for specific things, like, looks or, how they, hit the ball or, like, things like that because they said, like, Old Man Justice was, as I said, was getting old even though he was only in his, 30s.
That's pretty
Um,
old for baseball, though, because you start like in your late 19s. Like you could start like 18 or 19 in baseball.
mm, well, like I said, I don't know much about baseball, but that's besides the point.
I got you.
You see him, like, they say his legs are gone, his, like, defensive, like, capability wasn't there, and yet you see him, like, um, showing, like Billy Bean was telling him, like, to set an example for the others. Because even though maybe he might not be, like, the most skilled or talented anymore, he could still be there and, like, show something to the others. Like, maybe he wasn't the best or brightest, but, like, he could, like, wait what his meaning and, like, his example was being there could really, like, change things.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like this is the baseball terminology here. They said he couldn't field anymore. That's the reason why he was DHing. That's the designated hitter. To my understanding, designated hitters aren't required to field; they're just required to hit. Which honestly makes sense given the fact that they said he couldn't really field anymore.
Yeah, it's things that, like, Billy Bean, said, like, they were trying to, like, replace them, like, to replace, like, the 3 players that they wanted to, but they literally couldn't afford it, and they were looking for specific things, but they couldn't, like, get it because they, didn't have, like, the financial, like, support that they needed to get them, but we see, as I said, like, they, um, they built a new team from players and prospects that no one would have thought could have done anything.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it kind of comes down to the basic argument, like that this movie's trying to teach. Do you go for the guys that look like they pass the test, or are they going to go for the guys that actually can perform when the game is on the line? Because as they said, it's about scoring runs and not allowing runs. You do that, you win.
Yeah, it's matter of, like, how you get things done in a way that's most effective. I mean, even though, like, they said, like, certain like, they had, like, the player like, they had, like, this conflict of interest between of who should be first baseman between, like, the player Pena and Chris Pratt's character, Hatterberg, and they said, and the Art House said Pena was the only first baseman that they had, but in the meetings that Billy Bean and the other men who oversaw the team, Billy Bean and Peter Brand said he was on base more than Pena was.
Yeah, but then the other side of the coin as well is that they said it's very close between the two of them as to who is better. Like
Right.
Pena, we all know what Pena went to do in real life. He turned out to be a really good player, but at that time in his career, like he was a rookie. They didn't know he was going to do that. And then like Hatterberg's character, again, he got on base more, but even further on a mission, it was very close. They had to make a judgment call, and it just proved to be the right one at that point in time.
Yeah, it's even though it was like mathematics and science that they were like using, like the building the team and choosing who was best fit for certain places. That you could, I think, in some ways, you could still tell that maybe there was that little bit of like intuition or gut feeling that they sometimes went with.
Yeah, I agree entirely. I mean, you can feel both sides of the argument in this movie. It's not like one side. I hate those stories where one side is clearly right and one side is wrong. Like I know you know what I'm talking about. Where like a change has to happen, and the big bosses are like, "Oh, we can't change anything. We've done this forever." They have to fight against the bad guys. They try to sabotage each other. It's just a slice of life movie. Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong, and sometimes the two sides can see a neutral understanding with each other.
Yeah, like things I guess aren't always as simple as some people think. They're like uh, um, um, gray areas here and there that maybe you need to like understand or like maybe think about over think over and like consider because as you said like wasn't exactly so simple like this it's not so black and white there are things that you have to like maybe not think over it but also like try to go with your own like gut feeling there's like these things aren't always simple and you have to like consider like different ideas and possibilities because Billy Bean through more one at one at one point or another, he was seriously doubting what's happened. He was throwing a table, like he threw his TV out of his office. Like he
You get
was
that
getting,
multiple times in the movie.
yeah, he was getting incredibly pissed off, and he was doubting what they were doing. But you see, as things like evolved and like grew, and like as they move things into consideration, because even like with Art Howe, when he put in Chris Pratt's character at the bat, we see things like they were trusting like this other way of thinking, but going with things that they all were trying to like build together.
I
It
mean,
wasn't,
even when Chris Pratt's character was called the Bat, when Art House said, "Hedberg, let's go." Even Chris Pratt's character looked surprised. He's like, "You're trusting me, the guy you've been against the whole movie."
yeah, and you could see there that people, things can change. Yeah, like you could still like go away. You can still like maybe hold on to some things that you think are right, or maybe you can like those things can change and evolve. Maybe not stay the same, but like you could still have some kind of impact and like and feeling with what you do. Still, it doesn't have to go away completely. It can just still be there, but maybe it has to change a little bit, or you have to trust another way of thinking, or your own, or another's perspective on things.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, I was honestly my final word for this review is a movie like this. I know it did very well at the box office, and this was only the director's. I want to say the director has only done 3 or 4 other films, like counting this one. He's not done a lot of work. I don't really understand personally, seeing as all of his films were well liked by audiences. But at the end of the day, like the message of this film is very clear. I still remember this film years later. It's a film I don't think I saw for 6 years between now and the last time I saw it, but I'm like, I remember that film. It's a movie that you remember the message. You might not remember all the scenes, admittedly, but you remember the message and you remember what the characters achieved when everyone was against them. And in the end, don't we all love an underdog story?
Yeah, it's something that they went with like with the um more like the I guess you could say maybe not so hidden meaning, but even though they were all going through ways through statistics and mathematics and science, there was that feeling of these guys are undervalued, yet they could do something great if we just give them the chance.
I mean, sometimes it's the guy you least expect who does the thing.
Yeah,
Football terminology. Kurt Warner never got drafted. He got a chance only to play because the starter got injured in '99. They led us into the Super Bowl that first season. Nobody saw that coming. There was even a sports magazine that said, "Who is this guy?"
yeah. Some things just even though you may not expect certain things to work out a certain way, or maybe you don't think some people will go a certain distance, but things can surprise you, and sometimes you have to like have like see things from different perspectives, and also trust, maybe have a little trust in others to help things move along. But yeah, the Moneyball was definitely a movie that had some powerful, some really surprising yet uh, impactful meanings to what people can do if given the chance, or you could see others maybe in a way that others don't. But this is definitely a movie that has some um, purpose and like um, meaning that really can say something about what people can do and maybe what things should be.
Agreed entirely. It's been nice doing this, man. I hope we can do
Yeah,
this again. And I will
yeah.
say,
Thank you, mate.
if you like these true story movies, I'd recommend honestly American Underdog, which actually focuses more on the off the field and what led to Kurt Warner's rise. I think there's only maybe 20 minutes of football in a, I want to say close to 2 hour movie.
Mm. Yeah, like I said, I'm not usually much for sports movies, but maybe in the future I might do maybe some more at some point. But yeah,
Yeah,
these kind of movies I'm not much for. I'm not saying they're bad. It's just that I don't
it's
have as
preferred
much.
taste.
Yeah, I don't have as much interest in them, but that doesn't mean they're not, like, important to others or they don't have something, like, really meaningful to say. Because, like I said, there's Remember the Titans was a really big movie that some of the things about, like, the history and, like, how things went were different in, like, I guess you could say true story, but yeah,
Denzel was
there's
in that, wasn't he?
uh,
Denzel was in that, wasn't he?
yeah, he played one of the main coaches,
I
who, like, really changed things up, but yeah.
That's a movie I haven't seen fully to the end, but I know the movie because Denzel's my favorite actor.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, yeah, like movies like this like have like meanings that really can really present something really new in mind. But
Yeah,
yeah, thank you for suggesting this movie, and thank you for like taking part in this discussion. I was really glad to be able to do this video with you.
hey, the honor's mine, man. God
Thank
bless
you,
you, brother. Thank you.
thank you, and thanks again for doing this with me. Maybe, like I said, I want to do more discussion videos in the future, and maybe we can do some things with. Maybe I could do some things with you and maybe some other folks. But yeah, uh, but thank you everyone for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope and once again, thank you Nate for taking part, and thank you once again for doing this video with me.
God bless you guys. God bless you, Jeremy.
Thank you, and once again everyone, I hope you like this video, and thank you for watching.